Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's YouTube Live. I hope that you can hear me well. Do let me know in the chat box if you can hear us okay. I hope you've all had a lovely week so far. It's been average weather for us all. Let's hope it picks up a bit soon. So for those of you that don't know us, we are an online language school called Cercle, and we're 100% funded by CPF. You can find us on our website by simply typing in Cercle on Google, and you can also have a look at our Instagram by typing in Cercle into the search bar in Instagram as well. So welcome to this week's brand new series. Exciting times. We're going to be doing a series on five episodes on the theme of brilliant business English. And in this series of 5, we're going to be going through the most useful business scenarios for you in English. So no matter what your level, I hope that this series will help you to feel more comfortable with common business situations in English. So kicking off with today, this is the first of our series of business English, and we're going to be learning how to write the perfect email in English. And we're going to be dividing our YouTube Live into 3 main sections. So in part 1, I've got Cecilia next to me, who you've already met a few times now, and she's going to be exploring some of the key vocabulary you need to navigate your inbox. In part 2, I'm going to be showing you how to write an email, so all the essential information to put together a really good email, so how to start one, what to put in the main body, and also how to end an email. And then in part 3, we're going to be doing a fun little pop quiz all together to be testing your knowledge and everything that you've learned. So let's dive into the content.
Great, thank you, Lily. So to get started, today we are going to be looking at navigating your inbox. So your inbox is the place where you find all your emails. Perhaps the first thing you do, or one of the first things you do when you wake up in the morning, is look at your inbox and see if you've received any mail, any new emails. So perhaps if you've received lots of new emails, you might say, my inbox is full. It's really full. Now, the email is the message that you write. So say you wanted to send a message to your friend or maybe to your colleague to let them know that something's happened or whatever content you want to use. The message that you write is the email. So you might say, I'll send an email to her this afternoon. Now, your inbox is probably divided into some different sections. One of these sections is called the drafts section. And a draft is a first written version of something. So it's a version of something that hasn't yet been sent or published. So for instance, you might say, I've written a draft, I'll send it after lunch. So that means that you've written the content of the email, but you haven't actually pressed send. Now, another section of your email inbox might be the sent section. So this is once you've taken your draft and you've pressed send, it has been sent to someone, and now you can say it has been sent. So next up, some more useful vocab to navigate your inbox. So if you're sending an email to someone, the person you send the email to is called the recipient because they have received your email. And then you, as the person sending the email, you are the sender. Perhaps you notice when you look at a new email in your inbox, you see a title attached to it that gives you a bit of information about what is in that email. This is called the subject, and it will tell the recipient something about the topic of your email. So for instance, it might say, join our team, or 50% off school clothes. Now here we have CC. This stands for carbon copy. And this is when you include someone in an email that you're sending to someone else. So for instance, Lily often CCs me in emails that she sends to other recipients to keep me updated on what is going on at work. Very kind of you, Lily.
You're most welcome.
And then we also have a BCC. So this stands for blind carbon copy. And the blind here means that while you include someone in an email, the other person who's receiving that email is unable to see that you have included this extra BCC person in the email. And finally, if you've ever sent an email where perhaps you needed to send a photograph or maybe a PowerPoint presentation with it, then you'll have used an attachment. And this is a file that you have attached to an email, an attachment. Now we have a quick question for you. So, does anyone know the term for emails that are for marketing or advertisements that take up space in our inbox? Please go ahead and write your answer in the chat if you know what we call these type of emails that take up a lot of space.
Indeed, a lot. Clog up my inbox every single day. Not sure about you, Cecilia, but I find them really annoying.
I personally do. I'm very bad at forgetting to unsubscribe, and I have lots and lots of emails in my inbox.
Absolutely.
Very nice, Françoise. That is exactly what we are looking for. Great, yeah, exactly. So we would call these types of emails spam or junk mail. Great, so now I will hand over to Lily.
Okay, so now we've had a look at navigating our inbox together. Let's look at what makes up the perfect email. Now, of course, there's no one answer to this because every email is slightly different, but I hope this section will help you have the bare bones of a structure of the intro, the main part of an email, and also the concluding part. So, in very British style, I've added a nice infographic of a sandwich on the left-hand side to talk about the components of an email if we were to visualize it together. So, for example, we've got the introduction. So, why are we emailing? So that's when we're saying hello, perhaps we're introducing ourselves, and we're saying the reason why we're emailing. In the middle part of our sandwich, so the juicy bit, we've got the content of the email, an explanation of what it is we want to say in more detail. And then at the very end, we've got the sign off. Sign off is a nice term which means saying goodbye. The last part of the email where you might say best wishes or thanks very much, talk to you soon, Lily, in my case, because that's my name. So let's have a look at different types of email opening. So we're thinking of layer one of our sandwich, the introduction part of an email. So on the left-hand side of the screen, I've got neutral, and the right-hand side, I've got more formal. So the more neutral element is definitely the sense in where it's more informal, and the most formal, of course, situations in which maybe you're talking to your boss, you're talking to a client, where it's something quite professional and formal English is required. So in terms of the left-hand side, if we look at neutral, we've got hey, which means hello, and you can add a name or no name to this. So you might say, hey Lily, have you filled out those reports yet? If I was going to email Cecilia, I might say that to her, hi Cecilia, hey Cecilia, have you managed to schedule that meeting yet? It's quite neutral, it's quite friendly, it's nothing too formal. Slightly more formal is hello or hi. So your most informal or neutral would be hey. I wouldn't recommend saying that to your boss or someone who you were trying to impress or a client, but you might say hello or hi if you're on a friendly basis already. So again, it's optional if you add a name here. So you could say hello Cecilia, hi Cecilia, or you could have no name at all. It's more preferable to add a name. Of course, it's more personal, it's more friendly, it's nicer to open an email if someone's taken the effort to put your name next to it. However, it would still make sense in English if you forgot to add that extra detail. Slightly more formal as we go along the arrow, we've got dear. Often we'll even start a letter with dear as well. And now dear is when we're thinking of if we're applying for a job, for example, or if something's slightly more professional, if it's a client we're trying to impress that we've maybe never met in person. And here we have a choice. We can put their first name, so dear Cecilia, for example, or we can use a formal title. So dear Mr. Brown, for example, if it's someone that we would like to address in a more formal tone. And then on the right-hand side, we've got our most formal, to whom it may concern. And this is often if we're filing a complaint, for example. If we don't know the name of the person we are emailing, and it's a very formal email, we could start it with to whom it may concern. And this means we don't know their name, we're not sure who the email is going to end up with, but we'd like to send that email regardless. So now we've had a look at the very basics of email openings, let's look at some formal ways in which to sort of open your email in more detail. So after I've said hey, hello, hi, although in this case in formal settings we would say hello, hi, dear, or to whom this may concern. A really nice way to open your email is to say, I hope you are well. I hope you and your family are well. This is a sort of a polite way to show that you care about someone's current feelings without actually directly asking them how they are. So we don't expect a reply to this, as it's a statement. I hope you are well. It's not a question. We then dive into sort of summing up why it is we are writing an email. People don't want to have long, detailed emails. If we're able to say in the first couple of sentences the reasons as to why we're writing that email, it makes someone else's life, the recipient, as Cecilia said that vocabulary earlier, the recipient of the email, their life is a bit easier if we directly say what it is we want to talk about. So we might say, I'm writing regarding. And this is a way to introduce why you're writing an email or to even report a problem. So for example, I'm writing regarding the proposed data analysis your team sent over last week. Or I'm writing regarding the technical issues on the website. And that basically sums up in one line, very simply, what it is or why it is we're getting in touch with someone. In the third row here, we've got I'm getting in touch, and this is an introduction as to why you're contacting someone. So this is a nice sentence starter to ask for further information on something or about something. So I'm getting in touch to inquire about your offer, for example. On number 4 of our list, we've got I wanted to follow up on ... And this is a sentence starter if you've already been in contact with this person. So you've been emailing for a few weeks or something, or you've read an advertisement. You're asking to follow up for more information on something. So for example, we could say, I wanted to follow up on our meeting last week. You've already met this person and you're getting in touch with them again. You're reconnecting, as we say in English. And then lastly, most simply, if you want to be direct and you want to inquire about something or have more information on something, you could say, I wanted to ask about ... So I wanted to ask about your marketing ad that I recently received, for example. Okay, so now we've had a look at some useful phrases. Let's have a look at some informal statements that we might say. So the difference between this being more informal and the previous slide being formal is in this example, all of them are quite direct. So for example, this is how I might talk to Cecilia at the office. This is how I might talk to Francois, one of the co-founders of Cercle, at the office. I'm asking a very direct question. I'm not avoiding what it is I want to say. I'm not touching around the subject. I'm saying the question right out. So for example, do you know when you'll have those reports finished by? If I'm putting pressure on Cecilia to finish something, for example. If I want to see Cecilia, I might say, let's book a meeting for Friday. If I want to know about new figures, if I was working in sales, someone on the sales team might say, how will the new figures affect goals this month, for example. If I wanted to know more about a meeting, I could say, have you got those meeting notes, or what time are we meeting again? And all of these are very targeted and direct questions, which are sort of perfect for your colleagues. So we wouldn't really use this for formal tone. If we were using a more formal tone, we'd be using more modals such as could, should, would. We'd be much more polite using please, etc. This is much more targeted. I know Cecilia very well, so I know she wouldn't be offended by this type of question. However, if I'd never met Cecilia and she sent me a message saying, what time are we meeting again? If we had an interview, for example, I might feel that Cecilia wasn't overly prepared for the interview and it wouldn't be the most polite way to ask this question. For example, if I wanted this to be more formal, I could say, I do apologise, but I seem to have forgotten what time our email is scheduled for. Would you be able to remind me, please, for example? So in English, we love to go in more detail to hop around a subject rather than saying it directly. But the more indirect you are, in conclusion, the more formal you are in general. Okay, so now we've had a look at this. Let's dive into layer 2. So this is where things get juicy in terms of your content of an email. So the content is the main bit of our sandwich. We've gone through layer 1, we know how to introduce ourselves, and now we're diving in to the content. So I've got 3 main tips for you. Tip number 1 being keep things short. No one really likes overly long emails, so get right to the point if you can, as fast as you can. Tip number 2 is to introduce the theme of your email and sum up your main points in about 3 lines if you can, if it's possible. And the way to do this is you can always add a file for more clarification if you don't want to have a very long email, for example. So you might say, I've attached a PDF which outlines in more detail the above points, or please find attached our meeting agenda for Monday. So I haven't gone into detail in the email itself, but I've attached a file with that extra information that we need. Do you have any other tips you think are useful, Cecilia, for everyone this evening?
I do. I would say the main tip I try to keep in mind when I'm writing emails is using paragraphs. I find it just helps keep things clear, and the recipient is able to identify exactly what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. That comes back to our sandwich idea of the introduction at the beginning in one paragraph, the content in the main bit, in the main body, and then at the end you'll sign off in its own line. So not putting it all in one paragraph, that's difficult to read, annoying for the recipient, I've got the right word there, recipient to receive. Excellent, I completely agree with you, Cecilia. Okay, now we've looked at a bit of layer 2, let's look at layer 2 in more detail. So what am I talking about here? Different email situations. So as I said at the beginning of the live, it's difficult to teach you how to write the perfect email because of course I don't go through your inbox and I don't know the types of subjects that you're talking about in your emails. What I can do is help you with some typical email situations, some useful phrases. All of these are quite formal, which I hope will brush up your emails and make them look polished and as good as they can be. So, starting at the top, we've got asking for clarification, and that is basically a formal way of saying to check about something. So, for example, if Cecilia, as I said earlier, came to an interview and she'd forgotten the time of her interview, she'd be asking for clarification on the time and date or location of said interview. So, for example, we've got, if I understood you correctly, you would like us to ... or could you please clarify the next steps? As you can see, we've got a modal here. We haven't said, can you please? We've said, could you please, which is a lot more formal and polite way of asking for information from somebody else. In the middle here, we've got finding a time. Often if you're emailing someone, you want to organize a schedule, sort of a meeting, you might want to have an interview with them, you might want to have a sales call, whatever it might be, you're finding a time together. So you could say, please let me know what time would be convenient for you. Again, we've got this would, sort of polite way of asking someone when they are available, rather than right out asking, when are you free, for example, which is a lot more informal and something I might say to Cecilia as my friend. And then we've got slightly less formal than the first example, what time best works for you. In English, we like to, or in Anglophone culture, we often like to put the recipient of our email first. So it's a polite way of making sure that the person receiving your mail feels like they're in control as well. And then lastly, we've got thanking someone. So you're thanking them for the time to reach out to you, for example, for your consideration of an application for a job, or if something was useful to you, you might say, this is very useful, thank you for sharing. We love saying thanks in the UK, I'm sure in the US as well. We overly use that word, thank you and sorry are two words we use all the time. So do not hesitate to drop those in your emails where you can. And then lastly, we've got email situations part 2. So giving good news in a formal setting. I'm delighted to announce that. So this is the beginning of your phrase. I'm delighted to announce that you have been successful in your job application, or it is my pleasure to inform you that you have been processed to the next stage of our recruitment process. We've then got giving bad news. In English, we tend to go overboard in terms of detail. When we're giving bad news, we're far less direct than in French culture. So do be careful not to be overly direct if you're ever giving bad news. It's always best to tiptoe and find a sort of fluffy way to say something rather than saying it outright directly. So I regret to inform you that you were unsuccessful with your application is far better than saying you did not get the job, full stop. And then also another example might be, after careful consideration, we are unable to process your application further, for example. And then lastly, as I touched on before, in Anglophone culture, we love saying sorry. It's one of our favourite pastimes. So I apologise for any inconvenience is a classic phrase which you can use if something's gone wrong at work, if there's a delay on a project, if there's a delay getting in touch with a client. Or you could even say, we are sorry for the delay regarding the report, for example. Okay, cool. So now we've gone through the main part here. We've got the last layer, which is layer number 3, and I promise to stop talking soon, which is signing off. So this is the last bit, the bread, where we're saying goodbye. And I've started at the top with the most informal, and then we've got very formal at the bottom. So on the left-hand side, we've got see you soon, talk soon, which is a very informal sign-off. I might say that to Cecilia, for example, see you soon if I'm going to see her after lunch, or if I'm going to see her tomorrow, for example. We've then got thanks or many thanks. We love exclamation marks in Anglophone culture. Not too many, you don't need to do it every single sentence, but often in a sign-off it's common to have either an exclamation mark or a comma before your name. So that's a more formal and thankful sign-off, so many thanks or thanks. We've got a formal, thoughtful sign-off, so if you know the person and you're trying to be friendly, saying wishing you a nice weekend ahead or have a lovely day is something thoughtful. People like to read that in their emails in general, I believe. What do you think? Would you write that?
Definitely. I think that's a lovely way to show that you're being friendly.
It's true. Everyone wants to be wished a nice weekend ahead, so of course, be nice, even if it's a difficult email to write. It's always nice to end on a high. We've got our standard formal sign-offs in the next column. So this is probably the most common ones, I'd say. What do you think, Cecilia?
Yes, I would say these ones I use all the time.
Definitely. Most emails, kind regards, best wishes, kindest regards if we're feeling extra nice, all the best, or simply best, comma. And this is a formal way of just saying goodbye without saying the word goodbye. And then the last two are very formal situations. So we've got yours sincerely or sincerely. So this is when you know the person's name. And then we've got yours faithfully. And this is very formal. And this is when we don't know the person's name. So for example, if I started an email with to whom this may concern, to whom it may concern, I might end the email with yours faithfully if I was doing a complaint, for example. Okay, so that's my mini speech of content over. Let's dive into part 3. And we're going to be testing your knowledge. So I hope you've all been listening well. Cecilia has some good quiz questions for you.
Absolutely. So now we are going to have a quick game of spot the mistake. So you're looking out for something in this email that doesn't look quite right. Dear Miranda, I regret to exclaim you that we are unable to progress your application to the next stage of our interview process. I do wish you all the best with your job search. Best wishes, Lily. So please go ahead and write in the chat box what you think is wrong with this email. I would be very sad to receive this email, wouldn't you, Lily?
I'd be very sad indeed. It's never a nice email to have a rejection.
No.
But we can see this is quite a formal email, so the tone is going to be formal. Anyone have any idea what the error could be?
Can give a little clue. Perhaps look at... Oh, Francoise, very nice. Can you maybe have a go at putting what you think it should be instead? That is exactly where the error is. What would be the correct thing to say? So the correct thing to say in this situation would be, Dear Miranda, I regret to inform you. So the issue was around using exclaim instead of inform. As Lily said, that is a phrase we like to use. I regret to inform you that we are unable to progress your application to the next stage of our interview process. I do wish you all the best with your job search. Best wishes, Lily. Giving bad news, we can use regret to inform. So another one, who can spot the mistake in this email? To who it may concern, I am getting in touch to inquire whether a representative of Cercle de Langues would be interested in representing your company at our annual languages conference this coming May. Best wishes, Emma. That sounds exciting.
I would love to have an annual languages conference. So creative.
Go and join in.
I am interested, Emma. Okay.
Sign us up. So where is the error in this email?
A quick hint, it can be found at the very beginning without giving too much away.
And it's particularly important to get this one right because, as they say, first impressions count. So you don't want there to be a mistake in the first line of your email.
Ooh, you're giving it away there, Cecilia.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, we've got an answer coming in from Marie, who says, to whom, with an M on the end. What do we think?
I think, Marie, you are spot on. You're not going to be getting anything wrong in your email. So quite right. It should be to whom this may concern. To whom it may concern, I am getting in touch to inquire whether a representative of Cercle des Langues would be interested in representing your company at our annual languages conference this coming May. Best wishes, Emma. So, now, how might you open an email in a formal way? There are multiple answers you could give. Please write something in the chat if you think you know how you would open an email in a formal way. And perhaps if you know how you might sign off an email in a formal way too.
Any ideas from anyone? If we think right back to our layer one of our wonderful British sandwich of opening an email in a formal way. So how do we start an email and how do we end an email? So the two layers which hold the content. Any ideas from anybody? Oh, we have some silence.
It is tricky to remember all the different ways. There were so many options. So some we could go for. Dear or to whom it may concern. These are the more formal introductions. Very nice. Yes, dear Emma, that would be perfect. Dear. Great. And for signing off? Yes. Kind regards, absolutely. Kindest regards, best, yours sincerely. Best wishes, yours faithfully. Great, everyone. Clearly we're listening very hard. Remembered exactly what Lily said. Brilliant.
Okay, excellent. So that brings us to the end of this week's YouTube Live. I really hope that it was useful for you all and you've learnt something today. On business English, on writing an email formally. You can find us every week at this time at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday. We do a free lesson, so don't hesitate to tell your friends, your family, your colleagues. We'd love to have you here. We love to see you and to talk to you as well. It's a pleasure for us and it's just a wonderful experience to have this moment with you all. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well. Follow us on Instagram, see what we're up to. And of course, check out our website as well if you're interested in doing English courses. We look forward to seeing you next week and I wish you a lovely week ahead. Thanks, guys. Have a lovely week ahead.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Oh, I don't know why I sang.